started off singing, let me get there, for your glory. We will dance for your glory. We will lift up a shout that shakes the skies. The King is coming in. The King is coming in. See, we've been called to herald in the presence of the King. To shout his name across the earth. Where I want to start tonight is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 6. If you have your Bibles. Last Sunday we were in church and the scripture came to my mind and got a word that spun off of it. And it just started to blow my mind. I'm a very visual person, so when I hear something, I see something as well. And I heard this scripture in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, starting in verse 6. It says, "For it is the God who commanded light to shine out of darkness, who has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ." And it says, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellence of the power may be of God and not of us." We have this treasure in earthen vessels. Now this is that earthen vessel, right? This flesh. And of course, he's given us this treasure in an earthen vessel so that he would receive the glory, right? But then he took me to another scripture, so we're going to go there in Judges chapter 7. We're going to go back. Judges chapter 7. And I'm going to do a bit of reading tonight, but that's okay because the word is good, straight out of the word, right? The word is good. We're reading about Gideon and the valiant 300. It says, then Jerubbaal, I don't know if I say that right, that is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose early and encamped beside the well of Harod, so that the camp of the Midianites was on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. Now I want to show you where they were camped at. It says they were encamped beside the well of Harod. And Harod, what that means is fear. Harod means fear. So they were camped beside the well of fear. So that the camp of the Midianites was on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. Moreh means stretching or teacher. So they were camped in the place between fear and stretching. Ever been stretched? Come on. Doesn't quite feel nice. Stretching or teacher. Right in that place. And they were warring against the Midianites and also the Amalekites. Midian means place of judgment or strife. They were warring against strife. And Amalekites mean a people that ring or a run off people. Amalek, who they stem from, also means to nip or to lick. So it's something that's just constantly nipping. Or to wring means, have you ever saw somebody wring a chicken's neck? So they weren't a very nice people. Okay, they were from the beginning constantly warring with the Israelites. So they were a constant bother. Now, the Midians weren't from the beginning a constant bother, but these Amalekites, they just wouldn't go away. It's those little things that nag and nip at you. So that this is the place that they were at. It says, and the Lord said to Gideon, The people who are with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel claim glory for itself against me, saying, my own hand has saved me. Have you ever been in that place where God began to remove? Sounds like tonight, from what Sandy said, we're kind of headed in the right direction. God, it seems like people begin to kind of drift off in different places, and you say, God, what do you mean we have too many people? I thought that was the point, was to get more people. See, but God has a strategy.
Yes, He does. Right.
It says, now therefore proclaim in the hearing of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and afraid, let him turn and depart at once from Mount Gilead. Gilead means the heap or the mass of testimony. Whoever is fearful, let him leave the mound of testimony. Whoever is afraid, you should probably step off that mountain for a while. Maybe you don't need to be proclaiming too much when you're fearful of yourself, right? Whoever is fearful, we need to not be fearful. God has been speaking to His people a lot about identity. The thing is sometimes we get ideas of different things. Well, if I can do this is going to come against the enemy. If I do this is going to come against the enemy. Let me tell you something. The thing the enemy is afraid of the most is you knowing who you are. That is something that he fears the most, because if you know who you are, all that other stuff falls into place. If you know who you are, and circumstances and trials come, you still praise Him in the circumstances and trials, because you know who you are, and you know who you belong to. So is our praise a weapon? Yes. But praise in the hand of someone who is unsure of themselves, it's not a good weapon. Well, what do I do? That's awkward. I don't know what to do with that. I don't feel like praising right now. The biggest weapon you have against the enemy is knowing who you are. We need to not be fearful. So whoever is fearful and afraid, he said, let them turn and depart at once from Mount Gilead. Now, is that to say that if any of us who have fear, we might as well just hang it up? Is that what he was doing here? No, he's got a strategy. He has a strategy. We'll see in a minute. It says, and 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. Out of 32,000, 22,000 of them were fearful, and they returned to their homes. And 10,000 remained. 10,000 who were not afraid. And yet, the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many. Bring them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. Then it will be that of whom I say to you, this one shall go with you, the same shall go with you. And whoever I say to you, this one shall not go with you, the same shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, everyone who laps from the water with his tongue as a dog laps, you shall set apart by himself. Likewise, everyone who gets down on his knees to drink. And the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men. But all the rest of the people got down on their knees to drink water. Then the Lord said to Gideon, by the 300 men who lapped, I will save you, and deliver the Midianites into your hand. Let all the other people go, every man to his place. Now what was he doing here? He told them, he said, all the men who lapped water, in other words, they were taking water and they were pulling it to their mouth and drinking. And they were keeping watch. And then all those other men, they were so worried about their thirst. They were so worried about this thing right here that they got down on their knees and they put their face in the water and they began to drink like that. They got down and they put their face in the water. And they took their eyes away from what was going on, right? Come on. At this point, Gideon has 300 soldiers. I like to make the comparison with Leonidas and the 300 don't know if you've seen any of that, but he says, you know, when they get and they meet, and this guy's got all of these soldiers, and he says, Leonidas, I thought you were going to bring some men with you. And he says, I did. These are them right here. And the other guy says, well, you know, I thought you were going to bring more than that. And he says, I've got more soldiers than you do. He began to ask the other gentlemen's guys, he said, what are you? He said, I'm a potter. And he said, what are you? And they named off different things. And he said, you know, Spartans, what are you? We're soldiers. He had brought more soldiers to the fight than the other guy did. And the thing is, at this point, Gideon, he had all that he needed. He had God. And he had 300 men who were not fearful, and they were watchful. They were watchmen on the wall. They were ready and looking for anything that might come in. See, the thing is even though we're not fearful, sometimes when we're not afraid, we stop looking. We stop watching for things. We get so passionate, and we're like, yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm running after that thing. I'm going to get it. But we forget to be wise, to use wisdom, to watch and know that the enemy, even though we're not afraid, the enemy still comes at us. Right? Just because you're not afraid, does that mean it's like, okay, I give up. I'm done. So he had strong, believing, wise soldiers, right? Now, but still at this point, let's keep reading because he only had 300 men. Let's not forget that. Says, then the Lord said to Gideon, by the 300 men who lapped, I will save you, and deliver the Midianites into your hand. Let all the other people go, every man to his place. So the people took provisions and their trumpets in their hands. And he sent away all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent, and retained those 300 men. Now the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. And it happened on the same night that the Lord said to him, arise, go down against the camp, for I have delivered it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down to the camp with Purah, your servant. And you shall hear what they say, and afterward your hand shall be strengthened to go down against the camp. Then he went down with Purah, his servant, to the outposts of the armed men who were in the camp. Now the Midianites and Amalekites, all the people of the east, were lying in the valley as numerous as locusts. And their camels were without number, as the sand by the seashore in multitude. Do you realize the odds? I'm sure Gideon and Purah were probably going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they're going, oh, I lost count. You ever try to count the stars or sand? That's probably how they felt. Like, man, there's so many, I lost track and I got to start over. I can't get a clear number. So when they went back, they're like, look, they're like locusts. There's so many of them. When they went back, they're like, look, they're like the sand of the sea. You can't count them. And when Gideon had come, there was a man telling a dream to his companion. He said, I have had a dream. To my surprise, a loaf of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian. It came to a tent and struck it so that it fell and overturned, and the tent collapsed. Then his companion answered and said, this is nothing else but the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. Into his hand God has delivered Midian and the whole camp. Now I want you to realize something. This is a miracle right here. Like we read over this and we're like, oh my gosh, okay, yeah, that's good for Gideon. Do you realize that God himself inserted this dream into this guy's head? And probably maybe even more than that, just so he could begin to unleash fear as they begin to share that. And he knew that Gideon would be there listening. And that when Gideon heard that, it would give him strength. It would give him courage. It would give him boldness. Every step, every detail, God cares about and he takes care of. And so it was when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation that he worshipped. He returned to the camp of Israel and said, arise, for the Lord has delivered the camp of Midian into your hand. Then he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put a trumpet into every man's hand. Why would he put a trumpet into their hand? What are they going to do with that? What are they going to do with that? With empty pitchers and torches inside the pitchers. And he said to them, look at me and do likewise. Watch, and when I come to the edge of the camp, you shall do as I do. And when I blow the trumpet, I and all who are with me, then you also blow the trumpets on every side of the whole camp, and say, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. So Gideon and the 300 men who were with him came to the outpost of the camp at the beginning of the middle of the watch, just as they had posted the watch. And they blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers that they held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands for blowing. And they cried, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. And every man stood in his place all around the camp, and the whole army ran and cried out and fled. When the 300 blew the trumpets, the Lord set every man's sword against his companion throughout the whole camp, and the army fled. Let's skip past all those names. And the men of Israel gathered together from Naphtali, Asher, and all Manasseh, and pursued the Midianites. I'm just going to stop right here because this is going to be far enough for me to make my point.